I think it's a question and a discussion in the same time. Like in Iran right now, as I understand it, there is no actual people who actually run the country from the military perspective. They had that doctrine that said that when there is a war, so everyone has a more, how to say it, okay, they can give commands. Small commanders have more responsibility, right?
The way I look at it right now within the Islamic Republic is that we have different people with different levels of power that are not completely aligned with their goals, right? So
Yeah,
there's not one dominant person with all as a central figure that could be considered a leader of the Islamic Republic. You have different spheres of influence, and they're not united on the direction. Does that make sense? Different, yeah, different factions.
yeah, but also smaller commanders can act independently while they actually cut from the main command ship, right? One is when somebody with a tanker goes through Hormuz and he thinks he paid to IRGC to let them in, but it ends up with IRGC attacking the boats or the tankers or whatever, and they are like, "Oh, we paid you. You gave us permission. Why are you attacking us right now?" And there is no good explanation from those who are attacking at the moment. So this kind of situation, I believe, also happens in other places in Iran for like when somebody wants to shoot at, I don't know, UAE, at Bahrain, at Qatar, I don't know, at any other place, and they don't have enough coordination. So one decides that he shoots today. Oh, I have the power. I can shoot whoever I want. And in the same time, it's funny because UAE was attacked, but Israel wasn't attacked. And it's good for me, right? But I'm just surprised that they didn't actually went to some attempt even to attack Israel this time.
Yeah, you're right. There was not even a small attempt to did not a single missile come at you guys this time? Not a single. Wow.
Quiet.
Okay.
Even correct me if I'm wrong, I might be wrong, but I believe that even Hezbollah was quiet.
So maybe why is that? Is it because they don't have enough missiles anymore to come your way?
I don't know. Look, Iran is a enormous country. It's a big country, and if you have a launcher, but you are closer to the eastern side of Iran, so it's not that easy to strike Israel as if you were, let's say, closer to the western side. And I believe that if somebody in the eastern side has a launcher, he will not give it to somebody from the west for some reasons. One of the reasons that he loses leverage. The other reason might be because they can't actually do that because I don't know, they're afraid they will be spotted and destroyed, and whole list of other reasons for that.
Let me. I have some thoughts about the way that you were describing the internal division, but I want to see Sketch wanted to say something, so let's see what Sketch has to say about this. By the way, guys, because this is the VIP session and there's less people here in VIP session, that means that we get to talk about every topic in a much deeper, longer, get into a lot more details if we want to. But Sketch, go ahead. And there's no time limit here because there's not that many people
I
here.
think Daniel is speaking, he's speaking correctly about something that you guys also discussed, but this was at the beginning of the war when they first were striking a lot of heads, when they first started putting a lot of bingos on that card. They started saying, no, we have empowered our soldiers to work independently of us, trying to say, oh, don't kill us because it won't change anything. I don't know if you remember this, but if you go back far enough, they said, oh, our military is going to work even if you kill all of us. They're going to keep on fighting because they have instructions to keep fighting even if we die. So once you empower like that and you have your own internal divisions, I think that complicates things because we have a combination of the structure that you understand very well that we're trying to grasp. And when you combine that with commanders that are like basically not no names, but they're not known to us, they're very lower rank, it makes for a tough situation. I would say not something in this high level As the attack on UAE, that seems maybe more coordinated, more from the top. They're playing good cop, bad cop. Oh, why you do that? Like Armin said earlier doing Revolution Live. But as far as the problems with the Strait, that might be part of the source. So I want to back Daniel on this just to take it back to those early days when they said it doesn't matter if you kill us all. We have given them orders to act even without us.
Okay, so this is all very interesting, and I'm going to actually explain both what you're saying and Daniel using our chart. Okay, so I'm going to share the chart, but when I'm sharing the chart, by the way, if you say something, it's not going to be recorded. So let me just go through this. Bear with me because this explains everything. So let me share the chart with you guys. I hope this works out. Yeah, okay, fantastic. You guys can see this, right? All right, let me first address what Daniel was saying and then respond to what Sketch was saying, because this chart is useful for both of them, right? So when it comes to the internal division, the parts of the division that we have seen so far publicly is IRGC versus other people, right? But what Daniel is talking about is inter-IRGC division, okay? So we haven't seen publicly IRGC versus IRGC, but Daniel is actually hinting at something that is the greatest indication that there might be IRGC versus IRGC division as well, right? So we have seen IRGC versus Ghalibaf, okay? IRGC versus Ghalibaf as, so this is IRGC, right? The Ghalibaf is over here as the head of the legislative branch. And then we have IRGC versus the president, Pezeshkian. We even have seen IRGC versus Jalili in the recent Tasneem versus Raja News conflict that we just saw recently. I'm not going to go into that as much, okay? We always had IRGC versus reformers over here before. We had IRGC versus Arakshi, even though Arakshi now it seems to be more loyal to the head of the IRGC, Vahidi. So we haven't seen there's always also a suspicion of the Artesh, the official army of the country, versus the IRGC. We haven't seen any signs of that happening, but there's always a suspicion that this could happen at some point. But the most important division that we're hoping for, and what Daniel is referring to, is IRGC versus IRGC. And Daniel actually pointed to the event where when President Trump was saying that the Strait of Hormuz was being opened at some point and ships were going through, and then all of a sudden we saw IRGC attacking the ships that they were going through, which shows that some parts of IRGC were trying to allow the ships to go through and some other parts of IRGC were stopping it. That was the greatest indication that there's some internal division here, right? And one thing that could explain that is that, like we talked about already, IRGC versus Ghalibaf, and usually we talk about it as if it's IRGC versus the head of the legislative branch. But Ghalibaf is IRGC as well. He used to be IRGC. He maintains his connections to the IRGC, and he has his own loyal follower base within IRGC. So maybe he has some influence within segments of IRGC. So maybe like when President Trump was talking to Ghalibaf, maybe that was Ghalibaf's influence in letting some of those tankers go through the Strait of Hormuz. And maybe that was also Ghalibaf versus Vahidi kind of division. So you have to understand that Ghalibaf versus IRGC is also some internal IRGC division as well. But it would be great if we actually see more division within the structure. So now going to what Sketch was talking about. So a couple of years ago, this guy, who used to be the head of IRGC, Jafari, he created a mosaic structure of the IRGC where if you go over here, you can see 32 provincial IRGC commanders. He made it so that these commanders could work independently in a flat organizational structure without necessarily getting orders from a central command from the IRGC. And that mosaic structure has made IRGC more resilient in the sense that even if you take some of their top commanders, these different provincial IRGC centers will be able to continue their operation. But as you guys know, this might help them become more resilient, but it also means that we could have more division. If each one of these could work independently, then how do we keep them aligned? that structure would have worked very well when you had Ali Khamenei to keep everyone aligned. But now without Ali Khamenei, these different commanders might have different views regarding what is the right way to go about. Like, should we keep attacking the Americans? Should we attack the commercial ships? Should we capitulate? We don't know. There's independence means that you don't need a central command, but not needing a central command also means that everybody could go their own way. And also, one more point about this Jafari guy, he's a great enemy of Ghalibaf. And years ago, he exposed Ghalibaf for financial fraud. He didn't try to, he was exposing it to one guy, but it was being recorded and he didn't know, and the audio was eventually leaked. So that's an important thing to know about that as well. So before anybody speaks, let me just stop. I need to figure out how to do this properly because I'm sharing it twice, once with you guys and then once. So if I stop sharing here and then share this tab, and say, yes, it's working perfectly. Okay. So that's the explanation. Does that answer some of your questions and some of the
Yeah, so it reminds like a monster with a lot of tentacles but no head, and each tentacle tries to become a head. So something like this.
Say that again, sorry, because I was reading the chat. Go on one more time. Yeah.
I said it reminds a monster with a lot of tentacles.
Yes.
Where the monster doesn't have a head but has a lot of tentacles that each of them tries to become a head.
Yep, yeah. And Daniel in the chat is saying it's called Atash Be Ikhtiyar. That is a doctrine by Ali Khamenei. When he was alive, he put his doctrine as Atash Be Ikhtiyar, which means fire at will. The fire at will doctrine means that you don't need to wait for a commander to tell you when to shoot. So everybody that understands the philosophy of the Islamic Republic could independently judge when to fight. That was the doctrine by Ali Khamenei, which is responsible for the mess that the Islamic Republic is in. Because now that works well when you want to show maximum aggression to your enemies, but it doesn't work well when now you need to make everybody stop. Everybody is now firing at will. So how do you get everybody to stop if you need to capitulate? Yeah, go on.
And just quickly, the Artesh high ranks are also ex-IRGC. They came from the IRGC structure and took places high rank and high staff in the Artesh, as I understand it.
The IRGC has a higher rank than the Artesh. The IRGC has a
sorry. Yeah. No, I mean that the new high ranks in the Artesh are actually people who were in the IRGC.
Oh, yes. So years ago, the Islamic Republic was worried that the Artesh might eventually become a coup, do a coup against the Islamic Republic. So as a way to stop that from happening, they start slowly changing the leadership of the Artesh, and they made it more like the IRGC. So many of the leadership of the Artesh are now ex-IRGC, and the leadership is based on loyalty rather than merit. The Artesh used to have better commanders, and now it doesn't. So many people say, some people suggest that there is no difference anymore between the Artesh and the IRGC. But if that's the case, then why is there news about disarming the Artesh or defunding the Artesh every year? Every year, the Islamic Republic reduces the budgeting of the Artesh and increases the budgeting of IRGC. It seems like even with the change of the leadership, the Islamic Republic doesn't really trust the Artesh as much. But that's a good observation. That's the case. So the way I look at it is that there's four different. To simplify it, we have the Artesh head, the Artesh leadership, the Artesh body, the IRGC leadership, the IRGC body. Right. So when it comes to ideologically being jihadi minded, 3 out of these 4 is completely the understanding is that it's completely jihadi minded in line with the Islamic Republic. The head of the Artesh, the head of the IRGC, and the body of the IRGC. But what some Iranians have some hope for is the body of Artesh, not the leadership of the Artesh, but the body of Artesh, like the lower rank people, that maybe they are still loyal to the country rather than the regime.
Okay, Sketch wanted to say something?
I wanted to add to that maybe the dynamic that's a little maybe behind the scenes is that maybe when you get promoted to being an Artesh instead of being promoted to being into a different part of the IRGC or to higher in the IRGC, it's not really seen as a promotion. It's being seen as a demotion. That's one. Number 2, The troops that get someone that's there for loyalty, not merit, might not even like a new commander that's just there for Durka, and they're not really there to make the force better. They're there to keep it in line and make sure it's not very strong. So there may be resentment on commanders sent to Artesh. And there may be, why are you lighting me over here? I want to be IRGC. Why are you putting me in Artesh? You don't love me no more. That kind of thing. I thought that might be a possibility.
That might be a possibility because the money is also in IRGC. Because when you're in IRGC, when you're an IRGC leader, you're not just a military commander. Okay, you're also an economic, you're also an industry leader, right? Because the IRGC leaders, they don't just control armed forces, they control entire industries. And the IRGC is not just a military, and this is what people don't understand. One of the main differences between the Artesh and the IRGC is that Artesh is only military. The IRGC is political, religious, military, and more than anything else, economic, right? It's its own powerhouse. 2/3 of Iran's economy is under IRGC control and involvement, under their control.
It's like they could only put their finger in one pot while in Artesh, but in IRGC, you could put your fingers in many pots. You could get
if you're a leader within IRGC, you're basically are going to give the entire controls of major industries, and you could put your family in put them in charge of this company or that factory or that trade route or whatever, right? So there's a lot of more influence with that. By the way, this is something that in the Islamic Republic they do a lot. When people in power, they want to give each other, somebody else, make them a favor. They make them, here, you become the CEO of this, or you become in charge of this, because once you this trade route or this product, controlling this product or collecting that fine, right? And everybody gets some share, including even some reformers. So this is something that people don't know about the reformers. Khamenei actually treated them very well economically. They always were on a leash, okay, but they were actually loyal to Khamenei. A lot of people think that the reformers like Zarif and Rouhani and Khatami, they are, because they come out and make statements against the current positions of the Islamic Republic sometimes, that they are, maybe Ali Khamenei doesn't like them, but they know their purpose. And Ali Khamenei actually gives them their specific industries and factories and companies that are given to them by Ali Khamenei, and they know their limit. They know that sometimes they need to come and say something against the regime, but there's some red lines that they're not supposed to cross, to give basically a sense of the hope or a sense of the freedom. They're a pressure release valve. That's what their purpose is, right? But even some reformers have been given access to certain companies and industries by Ali Khamenei. Oh, by the way, one thing else is that a major industry right now is internet. The internet has turned into its own mafia right now with the complete block. And this is one reason why many analysts think that the internet is not going to come back in Iran. This Morad Vaisi, I don't know if this is true or not, but Morad Vaisi thinks it's over for internet access in Iran. To some people have access, but for it to go back to how it was before this war started, because it just makes too much money right now. So it has turned into its own mafia, and because it's illegal, it makes getting access to it is so expensive, and too many people are now making money from it. And by the way, just before I went into the live show, I was on Atheist Republic Persian Discord server. I was there for half an hour, and the Iranians in there from Iran, they were telling me, first of all, I was asking them, the VPN you're using right now is from the Islamic Republic. Can they not hear what you're saying? Is that safe? And he was like, oh, they can see that I'm on Discord, but they can't hear me. I was like, are you sure? And he was like, yeah, I'm sure. I'm like, okay. But what he's saying is that the VPNs are being sold by the Islamic Republic. So they cut the internet and they give you the tool to get access to the internet. So it's illegal. By the way, what they're doing, it's illegal. They're making it illegal to get access to the internet, but they sell it to you at 10 times or 20 times the price that it was before. And they also arrest anybody who's not the government who's trying to sell VPN. It's crazy. But the Islamic Republic is making so much money right now by making the internet illegal and then selling access to the internet at so much higher of the price than they used to. And so many people are giving up getting connected to the internet because it's just so goddamn expensive right now. But because it's profitable, and every time something in Iran turns into the mafia, it then becomes so profitable to sell it, and then it will never be undone anymore once it turns into a mafia. So that's why Murad Vaisi says it's over for the internet. Until Iran is liberated, we're not going to have normal internet again. But sorry, Danny, you were saying?
One more response from Sketch, and then we can move on.
Yes, on the topic of the black market, China does this very effectively because they allow all their generals and everyone in their top government to be involved in some form of corruption. Why? If I ever need to take down any of these guys, I will find some corruption. I will find you selling some VPN. I will find something. Everybody knows you can do it as long as you stay in line. For the second they determine you're not in line, they can use that against you. So when people see these purges in China, he's cleaning up shop. No, he knew everyone was dirty. Xi Jinping knew everyone was dirty. Just like within the IRGC, they know they're all dirty. But at some point, they can use that against any of them. And I have no doubt that allowing this kind of black market is also leverage against anyone selling them. And selling these black market goods, it's something they will use against anyone who steps out of line, especially if they get too much money too fast or show it too much. Or you understand what I'm saying? Or talk a little too loudly. So that black market thing, it's a method for control for the people who sell it as much as it is profit for the people selling it.
Yeah, it's crazy because the people who are online now is such a small fraction of what it used to be. And if this is how it's going to be forever until Iran is liberated, then people they're fucked. I don't know. A lot of people think that Iran is this backward place that's losing people. Oh yeah, for us in the United States, if we lose the internet, we're screwed. But I'm sure the Iranian people know how to survive without the internet because it's a third world country. That's not the case. In Iran, every single business that I know of used Instagram to be able as a way to put there are so many companies in Iran that their entire business is online, but all the other ones who are not internet or online or tech businesses, every single one of them that I know of, they're on Instagram, especially on Instagram, trying to get customers on Instagram. Instagram was their main way to get customers. So even, I don't know, like a salon or like a bakery, they also don't know what to do anymore because that was their way of getting customers. Even the Islamic Republic was saying that at least 2 million people are losing their job because of the internet shutdown. And that's Islamic Republic. So I think the main number is much bigger than that. 2 million people losing their job from a population of 85. I know the Iranians are 90 million, but in Iran, I think there's 85 or something. So 2 million out of 85 just losing their jobs like that is insane, especially with these prices. Or one thing else I heard from people in Discord, I was talking to them just before I went on the show, is that they are seeing people selling their house, like their chair, their closet, the stuff in their house, their TV, to be able to pay rent and stuff. So that is insane.